Shattered expectations. I know my mind from when I was younger. I want to evaluate certain issues of today from the mindset I had, from anything from a few to several decades ago. The big issue is child sex trafficking. If, when I was a young man, I had been told about a vast criminal network of child trafficking in the future, I would have had the assumption that there would be mass protests. Anything from hundreds of thousands to millions of people marching on the streets of the USA and the UK, etc., with a deep longing to protect children while raging against the criminals. In the present world, however, there has been almost nothing at all of the kind. Child sex slavery therefore remains a multi-billion-dollar business. Another issue is in regards to mainstream news media. When young, I assumed that a large minority of journalists would have been objective fact-gatherers, dedicated to reporting honest news. In the real world today, factual journalism is basically a myth. They are all propagandists. The majority are so extreme they intentionally lie, deceive, manipulate and effectively brainwash the population. If I had been told as a young man that this was the future, I would have assumed that some kind of decent and honest people's revolution would bring radical, positive change. In reality, people are simply more extreme and divisive than they ever were. As a teen, I assumed that society would progress, so that people would work less but earn more, and live in healthy, creative environments. In fact, wealthy nations have increasing numbers of homeless people, as well as workers in debt bondage. As a young man, I assumed that democracies were democratic, that voting was an effective means of change, and that governments actually governed. In reality, I have learned that governments are at best incompetent. They are corrupt and they are the puppets of big corporations, finance companies and shady elites. The people are little more than victims of con artists. As a young man, I assumed that academics were disciplined, knowledgeable and intelligent. I found that overwhelmingly, they are pseudo-intellectuals, contributing little of value to society. They often rehash the assumptions and ideology of those before them. The majority push cultural Marxist propaganda, regardless of its destructive effect on social relations. Long ago, as a new Christian, I assumed that I would meet true saints that were close to God. What I found broke my heart. Christianity becoming a doormat religion explains the societal failures mentioned above, and many others besides. Unfortunately for the world, God is a just judge. Now you may have realized that most people would regard these comments as extremely cynical. Also, I did not mention the positive side, such as doctors working hard to bring advances in medicine that help millions. The truth is, however, that this cynicism is more apparent than real. It is in fact realism, which can often be brutal.